Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. This is about my millionth attempt today to record this video, so bear with me. We are going to do our best and we're going to get through this as efficiently as possible, but I also want to make sure that I cover all my bases. So this is going to be probably about a 15-minute video I'm anticipating. I will try to address all the stuff efficiently, but there is a lot of stuff to talk about. So as per usual, we're going to open up by discussing some of the prep work that has to go into the knives, the multi-tool, the flashlight, the ferro rod, these kinds of things to be able to efficiently create the sheaths for them, but also have the sheaths produce the correct kind of retention, fit, blocking, all that stuff. So let's talk about that really quick. What do I mean when I say blocking? Blocking is something that would be affixed to your knife, your handgun, whatever it is that you're prepping to make a Kydex sheath for it. And the blocking will help inhibit the Kydex from forming into areas where you don't want it to be. Essentially, what I'm saying is if you look at this Tops Operator 7, and if you were to form Kydex around it and it just perfectly went into every area where there's nothing, you would have Kydex formed right in here, right up here. You'd have it formed into the fuller. You'd have it formed into the choil, into the recurve. And those areas, when you move the knife forward and backward into and out of the sheath, you're going to have issues where other sections are going to scrape, scratch, whatever. Or in the case of the guards, it's just not going to be able to come out. It's going to be kind of stuck in there. Too much retention. So blocking those areas allows the knife to move freely. Now, if you block too much, you're going to have essentially free motion, free range. And if you were to tilt your sheath upside down, the knife would just slide right out. That's obviously bad as well. You don't want no retention. You have to have a good balance. So where I try to get my retention on the Operator 7 is right here, this little peak, this lobe on the handle scale. And in this case, it's also kind of very big, wide, round handle scales. And this contour is just not huge. So while it is sufficient, I like to buffer just a little bit by adding some supplemental retention up here, allowing it to form into this little countersink feature against the head of the screw. It's a pretty substantial drop, I'd say right around 1/10 of an inch. So you get a good pinch there. And then you can also use a little bit of the blade stock here on the lower finger guard if you need to. And those three things combined are going to give you really, really nice retention. Now, as far as creating the right amount of retention, the ideal amount of retention is going to be enough so that you can turn the knife or the sheath upside down and shake it and your knife will stay put, but not so much that you can't overcome it by just gripping your handle and pushing the thumb ramp. You should be able to eject the sheath very easily. So let's look at the Tops Operator 7 sheath here. This one is in OD Green Cryptech, and it's a drop leg carry setup. Drop leg, guys, just means a dangler with a leg strap. You can have a dangler, which means it's on a D-ring, it articulates, it pivots, it swivels, and you can have just a stiff leather loop affixed to it. I just call that a drop loop. It's not a drop leg system, it's a drop loop or a fixed loop. And some people like the stiff loop. I really like danglers, but when it comes to a longer knife or a heavier knife, I really like to add that leg strap. This was specifically requested from the customer. It's, I'm just talking about what I do for my personal carry setups, but the leg strap, guys, really helps to take a little bit of the weight off. But more importantly, what it does is it keeps your knife in line with your leg. So as you walk, your sheath is going to move with your leg to a certain degree. It's going to move pretty naturally, and you start to not feel it there as much. Whereas if you don't have the leg strap, it'll swing with you for a second, but the swing ends up getting offset to your leg. So your leg is forward, but the swing is going backward. And what that essentially just does is either causes your knife to shift on your belt because the dangler is sliding, or it kind of tugs a little bit on your hip. And it's not like it's real uncomfortable or dangerous or something. It's just annoying more than anything, to be honest. So that's all I'm talking about. But anyway, retention, good retention, but a good ballistic draw. When you push that thumb ramp, just so you know, I'm not pulling that off in any way. My hand is over here. So that sheath just sails right off when you overcome your retention point. I love that. Such a nice feel. It's just a really, really great way to have your sheath set up. All right, so that is leather drop leg with a nylon leg strap. Good to go. Adjustable ride height on that as well, guys, and pull the dot snaps. logo plates. They are spaced to fit a tech lock if you ever decide you want that. All right, moving forward, we also have a bigger sheath system that is designed to fit all of the gear that you're seeing here. So we have the Tops Operator 7, the Tops Saw 2, Leatherman Surge Multi-Tool, Exotac Fire Rod XL, and an Olight Baton 3 Pro Max flashlight. Now he asked me to do several things with this. He wanted it to be set up with a drop leg. So in this case, it's going to be the previous one, I think I'd said leather. This is a nylon drop leg all the way around. The other system, the bigger system, is going to have a leather dangler with a nylon leg strap, and it's also going to fit all this gear on there. But he wanted 2 additional carry setups. He wanted to be able to carry it as a baldric system, which means a 2-point sling, hence these 2 D-rings here. And then he also wanted a chest harness setup. So I'm going to go into some detail on both of those in just a moment, but let's go ahead and just talk about the fundamentals of the sheath. You already know the drop leg setup, same as the other one, adjustable height. The only difference is this being the leather one, you don't have the polka dot snaps, so you need to thread your belt through this system. The nylon, obviously, on the other one was black. On this one, it's coyote, and they are interchangeable if you ever want to swap them out. All right, so let's get the fit here of the Op 7. Nice click in, nice ballistic draw. I really love the fit of this thing, guys. It's very nice. Over here we have the Saw 2. Now for prep work on this one, I decided, because there's not a ton of material to grip onto here, but there is just enough, I would just prep a piece of wood that was cut to fit the underside of the tang, but not account for any of the other spacing on the handle the way I do for the Operator 7. What am I talking about? On the Op 7, you guys can see that there's a wide section right here, then there's a dimple, and then there's the actual area that houses the handle. And the reason for that kind of flare out and the dimple is because I want the knife to have a section where it has to pass through a tight spot, but I want also for when it goes back in to be able to push the sheath open. If you trim for retention, what you wind up with is a situation where the handle goes past like this, and while it might feel good for a while, you're eventually going to wear down the tips of that retention point. Whereas if it kind of, it's hard to do with my fingers, but if you have more of an hourglass shape to it, you can see that the knife will go in and start to move the sheath away on both sides. It'll flare the sheath outward past that retention point. And that little bit of spring and maneuverability there is going to increase the life of your sheath indefinitely. There is probably a life to it, but in the 7 years I've been making sheaths, I've never had one come back to me because it's loosened up. So just for the record, Kydex will hold its form for many, many years. And I think doing it like this is just going to increase the life of it. Maybe not indefinitely, but it is an heirloom quality product when you do that. So I would really recommend that. So you can see the difference there. This has what I call the retention divot. This one does not. And the reason I did not give this one the divot is, again, because the handle, the lobe of the handle here just does not have that much contour to it. So I thought it better not to do that. So again, I prepped a piece of wood underneath like that, and I also cut a little dowel pin that fit into there to block off that hole. And then from there is just the regular tape job that you do to every knife before you press it to make sure that there's space inside so no dirt, debris, etc. is likely to scratch your blade. Good click in on that, no rattle, no play. You'll notice that there is a little wiggle on the sheath. This is because the optimal points that I found to actually affix it to the larger sheath were right here and here. They're very close together, so there is a little bit of wiggle. And while we're right here, I'm actually going to tighten it just a little bit. I think I'd like to see this maybe more substantially. All right, let's see how that feels. Yeah, there's a little less wiggle to it. All right, so the nature of the beast, when you have a system that's not very big but has a lot of gear on it, is that you're going to have overlap of everything. I don't usually like to overlap the handles, but the angles and everything with how wide the flashlight is, there didn't seem to be a more practical solution. So that's what we're dealing with here. So as far as when you draw your Operator 7 out, what I recommend is leave your index finger off, and that way it doesn't feel like it's competing so much for space with the handle of your saw. You can just kind of push right there, and then add your index finger and complete your grip. It's really not that bad. Pretty good, pretty comfortable. Same thing goes for this one. If you add the index finger, it's a little bit hard to draw. I mean, it's not that bad, but what you want to do is not grip with your index finger. You can just kind of leave it there, but very lightly, just have it placed there. What you really want to do is grip with your ring finger, your pinky, and maybe a little of your middle finger. And I'm not completing the grip behind. I'm kind of using it on the underside of the handle because you are going to be competing for space. Again, I try not to overlap handles, but in this case, it just kind of felt necessary to do. So it's not so bad. You can get your grip like that and draw that out by using the thumb ramp. And really, most of my grip actually is like ring and middle, and then I'm pushing with the thumb and just kind of sliding, and it comes right out. It's really no problem at all. All right. Then we have our Leatherman Surge. Now this, I would probably take the lanyard off. Chris was my customer, guys out in Reno, Nevada, if I hadn't said that already. Chris, I'd probably take the lanyard off just because it's kind of annoying to have to throw back through here. But if you want that on there, by all means, leave it. You just kind of have to finagle it down through there to make it work. You'll notice that the Surge holster is pretty much just a nice square, well, rectangular, hollowed out area that this can move into, and then you've got the additional rectangular recess for your pocket clip, and it's good to go. I'll talk a little bit about how I form that in just a second. Up here we've got our ferro rod, the Exotac Fire Rod XL. Now you can put it in with the handle facing out this way or the other way. If you go this way, then you're going to be kind of, again, competing for space. It becomes a little more difficult. So I actually like to go the other way. The only thing you'll have to watch out for is try to make sure that your bungee here doesn't get caught up in anything else. And it does compete just a little with space for the D-ring. Now you can do one thing. You can actually pivot this D-ring down, and that creates a little extra space to make it possible to get that in there. Then you can pivot that up and you're good to go. The bungee on here is necessary because as you use the rod, it whittles the rod down, so the rod effectively becomes too small for the holder. Right now the holder retains it pretty well, but it won't do that after you've used it enough. So this bungee on here wraps up and over and goes into the little notch on the underside. It's kind of hard to see where I'm putting it, but the notch is the same as on this side. You see that little notch for your bungee to lock into, and it's really, there we go. So it's just nice to have that there. Then you've got your flashlight holster. And this one, I like to keep the pocket clip tucked in up here by the edge of the Op7 sheath, just so it doesn't snag on things. And you basically just push it in until your cap, or until your light, man, I'm struggling, until your switch, until your button is inside the sheath. This is designed this way so that you can avoid having it get turned on accidentally, but so that you can also orient it like so when you're carrying in baldric style in 2-point sling. You're going to be using those D-rings. It'll be hanging under your left arm, handles forward. I should say under your arm because it's all ambidextrous, by the way. But you can hang it under your arm, handles forward. You can pop this out, turn your light on, and then snug it back in. You won't have that light get accidentally turned off, and you've got your flashlight facing forward. I love having a baldric system, and I love flashlights on baldric because of that hands-free feature. So there you go. Just conserves your battery, and you can have it tucked in nice and tight like so. It's not going anywhere. All right, so how do I form the holders for the Exotac, the flashlight, and the Leatherman? It's different for every Leatherman, but in this case, I have a block that I kind of sanded down to the right shape and size to work for a Leatherman Surge. And in this case, because of the pocket clip, I also added just a piece of metal onto it. I'd measured out where does it need to be, and a great way to preserve your pieces of blocking like this without ruining them, but also add a feature like this, is just take a piece of blue tape, guys, painter's tape, put it on the back of the thing that you're going to put onto it, and then take a little strip that matches the width, put it onto your blocking. So I'm just going to call this the mold, and this is just an accessory. So put a little blue tape on the back side of your accessory, put it on the face of your mold, and then put a little bead of super glue over the blue tape. So you have blue tape, super glue, blue tape as a buffer between your two items. And that means that not only are you going to securely put your items together, but they'll be easy to take apart and it won't ruin either one of them. So it's a really, really nice way to go about things. Sorry for the timeline. I'm over 15 minutes now, but I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly, I promise. So anyway, I just basically take this, I get my Kydex cut into a rectangle. I finish the long edges of that rectangle. I heat it up, and then I put it over the top, and I use just 90-degree blocks of some kind like this, and press the Kydex down on the sides, pinch it in, make sure everything is good and aligned, form fitted, and then I've already pre-cut another piece that I can squeeze down over the top of this pocket clip blocking. That'll give it those really nice creases. So you see how everything has those sharp creases to it. It just makes everything look really professional and crisp, and I love how that looks. Kind of the same process for the flashlight and ferro rod. In the case of the flashlight, I actually don't press the flashlight directly. I just grab a dowel pin that's or dowel of some kind, in this case PVC pipe, that's of a similar diameter, a little bit under the diameter, so I wrapped some blue tape around it to bring it up to the appropriate diameter. Then I lay out my rectangle, I put this over it, then boom, 90 degree, get a nice crease in it, and everything looks super nice. I don't know how well you can see the crease down in there, but it does look really, really good. Same thing goes for the rod, but I actually do wrap on the rod itself. So that's pretty much that. All right, guys, so baldric. What I recommend for baldric carry, use case, large or heavy. When I say large or heavy, it can be one or the other or both. I really prefer to carry heavier systems. I'm not going to EDC those, so I'd be carrying those out in the brush for camping or hiking or something like that. It just bears weight really well to have a sling over your shoulder and carrying your stuff there. It's also really, really practical because it means that your knife is just kind of out in the open and it's easy to access as you need it. I love Beach and Tactical baldric slings. These are the best in the world, in my opinion. So go check out Jacob over at Beach and Tactical and the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Good dude, amazing slings, and well worth the money spent. I'm not paid by Jacob to say any of this stuff. This is my honest opinion, and it's why I recommend and use his stuff nonstop. It is the way to go, guys. Trust me on that. The other carry setup he wanted, like I said, was a chest harness. So what I've done here is I've used my CNC machine to mill out these plates. Now this is a little different from my standard chest harness. My standard one has a different size, different number of holes, different slot layout. And this one is kind of design inspired by a gentleman named Austin who runs Bayou Amateurs. It's a little bit of a gear review page. And Austin had ordered the very first chest harness that I ever did. That's not true. The very first chest plate, like a mounting plate on the chest that I ever did, was a project for Austin several years ago. And so when he saw that I got a CNC machine and started offering like these standard chest harnesses, he was like, hey man, can I collaborate with you and kind of like co-design something that'll be like mine, kind of. So we did that. And he sent me drawings and whatnot, and this is what we landed on. It's got these slots all the way around, which makes it a little more accessible for changing things up with how you want to mount it. I just realized I'm upside down. And then he also wanted to get a double front plate. So we've got a plate up here and a plate down here. So shout out to Austin and Bayou Amateurs for helping me come up with this specific type of design here, and honestly for the inspiration to do chest plates altogether. So guys, prior to this, chest harnesses that I was doing were like 3-point harnesses, but anytime you want to change the angle or position or anything like that, or swap out what gear you have carried on the harness, it was like a D-ring like this was attached to your knife. You'd have 3 of them and you would string the harness onto those D-rings. But if you wanted to change the angle even like 2 degrees, you'd have to change where the D-ring was connected, change the length of each arm. It was just super inconvenient. Whereas this, you set up the length of the webbing one time to match your body, get the plates tight to your chest, and then from there, you can mount your gear to the plates at virtually any angle. You can swap the gear out seamlessly. It's a very, very nice system. Way better than the 3-point, more comfortable, more practical, more versatile, and way, way easier to use. So yeah, we have these 2 plates held together by some rubber coated nylon. And then on the back, I don't necessarily want to encourage this as a mounting plate or anything. I wouldn't personally mount anything on my back like that, but it's just more comfortable because it's a larger plate. So you have the option of adding something there or just using it as a large plate, but I am including the regular standard small plate for the back as well. So we got a lot of options built into one package here. All right, so that's pretty much everything I've got for you. I know this was a long video. If you've toughed it out through the whole video, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments down below if you actually made it through the whole thing. I know a lot of you guys are knife nerds and sheath nerds, so you do like to watch these long form videos, but I get so many comments that are like, yeah, I got bored after 3 minutes or something. Yeah, man, I understand. I'm not an entertainment channel. I am, I'd say more of like an edutainment channel. And mostly what I do is try to give comprehensive, long form looks at and explanations of the gear that I build so that you, as a potential customer, might look at it and say, that's exactly what I want. Or I want that, but I want this to be a little different. Or I want that in a different color. Or can you do that exact setup, but for these two knives, etc., etc. It's there because this is a custom world that we live in. And I want you to be able to kind of shape some ideas of what's going to be most ideal for your project so that we can discuss it productively and make sure that I build what you actually want and need. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the long video, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button. If you like my channel, subscribe. And of course, I appreciate you commenting and sharing out to all the world. I don't make any money off the YouTube videos directly, but of course, more viewers means higher chance of booking a sale, and those sales are what feed me and my family, so I very much appreciate the shares and the comments. All right, guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. Stick around for the next video. God bless.